Welcome to the YouTube channel named DRS Zone. We're diving deep again today, and we're looking at some fresh analysis from the DRS Zone team. And it's focused on, well, a pretty strange race weekend, actually. You had McLaren celebrating a championship, but the feeling, it wasn't exactly party time, was it? More like intervention pending.
It really does set a weird stage, doesn't it? The sources we're using, they flag this right away, this central tension. McLaren gets their 10th Constructors title. I mean, that's massive historically. Puts them second overall past Williams. Huge deal. But then the commentary almost immediately calls them a defeated champion. And we kind of have to start there. That's the mandated frame.
Okay, hold on. Defeated champion. That feels really strong, maybe overly dramatic. What evidence are the sources actually pointing to? What makes them say that?
Well, it comes down to performance, not the history books. The celebration feels a bit hollow because of how things have been going recently. Look, McLaren hasn't won a race or even taken pole in the last 3 attempts. That's fact number one. Max Verstappen has been, dominant. But, and this is key, in this race, George Russell and Mercedes finished ahead of both McLarens. So the data, it really suggests McLaren was maybe third quickest out there at best. And you just can't sustain a lead in the Drivers' Championship, let alone 2 leads, being the third fastest team. That drop-off, that's the crisis they're talking about.
Right. So, okay, if we look beyond the shiny trophy, our mission today is basically to unpack what's really going on inside McLaren, this sort of growing crisis.
Yeah.
And then look at how serious Verstappen's comeback is and how all that drama in the midfield is playing into the end-of-season fight.
Yeah, but let's not completely brush past the achievement itself. 10 titles. Only Ferrari has more, with 16. That's extraordinary. Especially when you think about where they were. That gray era around 2017, 2018, particularly with Honda. Rough times. So winning back-to-back in 24 and 25, it really proves that big strategic shift they made, changing the car concept back in 23, actually worked. It was brave, and it paid off.
Okay, fair point on the history. But the sources definitely bring it back to the immediate tension, like that team celebration photo. They specifically point out Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri.
Okay.
The description was forced smiles, or even poker faces.
Exactly. You could see it right away. And the root cause, according to the analysis, was that touch between them on lap 1. Norris was trying to dodge Verstappen, right? Yeah. Ended up breaking Piastri's front wing when they clipped. He basically steered into his teammate to avoid Max. And Piastri was apparently, well, the word used was errado.
Errado. That's the Spanish term the source used, yeah, to really get across how angry he was.
Exactly. Angry and rage. Piastri was apparently furious, questioning the lack of teamwork, saying Norris's move against his own teammate was just unacceptable.
Even though, crucially, neither the team nor the stewards decided to penalize it. But like you said, the feeling was already there.
And the long-term vibe, it's summed up by this other phrase in the notes. Perdonas, pero no olvidas. You forgive, but you don't forget. And now the constructor's done, right? So the gloves might come off a bit more. There's only 22 points between them. And with the field tightening up, you've got, as the source puts it, more judges in the contention, more drivers who can slot in between them, steal points. That driver's title pressure, it's only going to get worse. And you bet this incident will come up again if things get tight.
Which naturally opens the door for everyone else, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That internal fight creates opportunities. Who's stepping up?
Well, the pack is definitely closing in. Team title's done, yeah, but the drivers is still wide open. And for the 3rd race running, Verstappen has chipped away at the lead of both McLaren drivers. He is becoming a genuine threat again.
Let's hit those numbers because they really stand out. Verstappen's now, 63 points off Piastri and only 41 behind Norris. That gap's closing fast. I mean, given Red Bull's earlier season struggles, can he actually catch them? Or is this just him playing spoiler now? Oh, he's absolutely playing for the win, no question. His form lately has been incredible. But he's not alone in this resurgence. George Russell and Mercedes, they've been fantastic too. Russell got his 2nd win of the season, his 8th podium overall, and that performance has really locked down P2 in the constructors from Mercedes, solidified it. Russell's performing brilliantly, gets P2 for the team, and yet there's this weird administrative detail the sources pick up on. Despite all this, and despite knowing Kimi Antonelli is coming next year, Russell's own contract extension still isn't signed. That seems odd.
It is bizarre, isn't it? It kind of shows how few options there really are at the top right now. The analysis uses this phrase. They're condemned to understand each other. Russell and Mercedes. It's a bit harsh, but it means, look, neither side really has a better alternative. McLaren isn't swapping drivers. No other top seats are open, so yeah. Maybe they're not rushing, but they basically have to make it work.
And if you link Mercedes being strong again to the wider picture, Well, it puts Ferrari under some serious pressure, doesn't it? Ferrari's only 25 points ahead of Mercedes for P2. That's close. That's definitely cause for some nerves in Maranello.
But here's the kicker. The really shocking stat from the sources. It involves Red Bull, the Max Verstappen team, and yeah, the source pretty much calls them that, is now just 10 points behind Ferrari for P3 in the Constructors.
Wow, okay, we need to pause on that Max Verstappen team thing. Let's just state the stat clearly because it's almost unbelievable. Max Verstappen has scored 94%. 94% of Red Bull's total points this season. 273 out of 290. All him. I mean, can a team even function like that? Is that sustainable, even for a few races?
Well, sustainability is the big question the sources raise, yeah. But right now, he's delivering. And if Red Bull, basically, Max does overtake Ferrari for P3, the historical weight of that is huge. It would only be the 16th time in the entire history of the Constructors' Championship that Ferrari finished outside the top 3. I mean, given their resources, the drivers they have, that would be a massive, massive failure for the Scuderia this season.
Yeah, that really frames the end of the season, doesn't it? And it raises a big question for you, the listener, watching these last races. Is this surge from Red Bull and Mercedes, them getting between the McLarens, is this a real durable trend or just a temporary blip before McLaren gets back on top? How you answer that probably determines how you see the championship playing out.
Let's zoom out a bit, look lower down the grid. The Spanish drivers, Carlos Sainz and Fernando Alonso. No podiums for them, unfortunately, but definitely eventful weekends.
Alonso's race was pure Alonso, really. Yeah. Getting into Q3 was apparently a miracle, according to the source.
Yeah.
Then in the race, a terrible pit stop wiped out the gains he made at the start, cost him 2 spots.
He still got voted driver of the day, though. Partly for that amazing pass on Hülkenberg, but he only finished P7 because Lewis Hamilton got a 5-second penalty. And it's important, that penalty was for track limits. It wasn't for the stuff Alonso was yelling about on the radio near the end. He was really angry, thought Hamilton's car had a brake failure or some other safety problem.
And Carlos Sainz, just a brutal weekend. Started 18th, somehow salvaged 1 point. But the whole thing stemmed from that disqualification the day before, didn't it? An incorrect DRS gap measurement.
Yeah, and that was a Williams issue. They admitted it. Affected both their cars. Just bad luck for Sainz to get caught up in it. But shifting focus to the race itself, one fascinating thing the sources note is the lack of safety issues. Like actual safety cars. For this specific track, out of 16 previous races, there's always been a safety car. Always. Except for 2018, 2024, and now 2025. So 2 years running without one. That kind of points to a maybe a shift in F1. The source suggests this era is more about gestion.
Gestion.
Yeah.
Which is like management, right? Or control driving.
Yeah.
Drivers maybe not pushing absolute flat out all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Prioritizing strategy, tire management, consistency over just driving at the limit constantly.
Which then connects to things like those driver cooling vests.
Yeah.
The source had a funny description. Said the drivers look like they're wearing an alembic, like some kind of distillation tube setup. What exactly is an alembic? And why use that word?
Right. An alembic is an old word for a still, like for making spirits, distillation equipment. The metaphor highlights how weirdly complex these cooling systems look, all tubes and pipes. And the underlying point or critique in the source is that maybe this kind of tech removes some essential physical challenge, that enduring the heat should be part of the difficulty. The purest view, I suppose.
Okay. Conclusion of the news. So what do we got? We've got high tension at McLaren, despite the big Constructors win. We've got Verstappen closing in, almost single-handedly pulling Red Bull up the standings. An incredibly close fight for P2 and P3 between Mercedes, Ferrari, and, well, the Max Verstappen team. The next race, Canada in the U.S., it's a sprint weekend, too. That's going to be crucial. I mean, the last few races really do suggest this F1 season could just descend into chaos. Or, as the source puts it, una locura. Total madness if these other teams keep mixing it up with the title contenders.
And that brings us to a final thought, something for you to think about. McLaren's back-to-back titles, they came off that mid-season concept change back in 23. It worked brilliantly. But now you see this friction between Norris and Piastri. It's visible. And you know the big engine change to Mercedes is coming in 2026. So how much pressure does that put on McLaren's leadership right now? They have to manage this driver rivalry perfectly. They absolutely cannot afford to go into that huge technical shift with internal instability brewing. Otherwise, well, they could slide right back into that gray era pretty quickly.
That's a really sharp point to end on. Lots to watch out for, and a reminder to subscribe to the channel named DRS Zone.